Hi everyone, it's Faz Kareem here with Learnit, and I want to make a video today discussing how we can utilize Microsoft OneDrive, a cloud service that you can use at work or personally to upload files, photos, and it essentially allows you to access these files and photos securely across multiple devices. And what I mean by multiple devices is there's a OneDrive mobile app. So if you have an Android phone or an iOS phone or an iPad, you can download the mobile app to access your files and photos on that device. You also have the ability to access OneDrive from OneDrive.com or Office.com. This cloud service is a website you can also go to access your files on the web, as long as you know the username and password to your account. However, though, keep in mind that OneDrive, this cloud service, does have an actual desktop application that you can sign into with a Windows or a Mac computer, and that allows you to upload and share files and access your files directly from your File Explorer or your Mac Finder, just like you would any other file. Now, OneDrive does have the ability to share files and folders as well and set permissions. I do want to discuss those today, and I want to show you the various areas towards the end you can access OneDrive, because OneDrive is also integrated inside of Microsoft Teams, which is a business collaboration tool a lot of organizations use to work securely and to have conversation-based work. So a lot of good stuff in store for us in this session. And then in the next upcoming seconds here, I'll show you what we're going to actually cover, our agenda items. But we will be focusing on OneDrive. Thank you all for spending some time and clicking on this video. Let me go ahead and show you our agenda items that we have. So here is the topic list, everyone, where we're going to cover OneDrive for your everyday. And I just want to start out with us just having an understanding of what OneDrive is. And from there, I want to dive in and show you the actual desktop application. The desktop app that you can sign into with the Mac or a PC, and that allows you to actually have access to your files or to add files and upload them directly from your computer. And once we understand that there's a desktop app and show you the settings to it and the various areas that we should know about it, I'll then show you how you can access the same exact area, your files, using a browser by signing into OneDrive.com and viewing your files from there. Now, once we get comfortable accessing OneDrive, uploading files, and viewing them from OneDrive, that's when we're going to start talking about sharing. How I can share a file and set it as a view only or editable. What happens when I share a folder? What happens when I add a file inside of a shared folder? Who can I share it with? How can I stop sharing? And where else can I access my files, like in Microsoft Teams for collaboration? So a lot of goodies in this session. You can look inside of the description to skip along and kind of find the part of the video that you want to watch if you would like. But let's go ahead and get started here. Now, before we do begin and diving into OneDrive, I just want to explain and give us an understanding of what OneDrive is. Because they do call it a cloud service. People say they're uploading their files to the cloud. What they mean is they're uploading their files to a server that Microsoft is taking care of. And what it allows us to do is if we upload our files there with our accounts and our passwords, we can essentially access our files from anywhere. Whether we're on a PC, we can use the desktop app, or we're on a browser, we can sign into the web, or even our mobile devices. There's a mobile app that we can use. Once they're on the cloud, we can actually share them with certain permissions for editing and viewing. Now keep in mind that the mobile app also does have a PDF scanner that you can use to upload whiteboards, business cards, or pretty much anything you need to take a PDF of and quickly name it and give it a location on your OneDrive account. So it will be available across all your devices. So now that we have a little bit of an understanding about what OneDrive is, let me start talking about the actual desktop application of OneDrive here. A very important part of understanding OneDrive is getting a hang of using the desktop application, which I actually have a screenshot of on my PowerPoint here. Just to let everyone know, you do all actually have access to OneDrive if you have a Windows 10 machine. And if you don't, you can download it, of course. It's free to download. But the OneDrive app is usually installed on most Windows devices that have Windows 10 and up, where you can sign in or create your account. Now, keep in mind that once you sign in, you're going to have to actually sign in with your Office account. And this OneDrive desktop application is going to allow you to view your OneDrive files directly from your computer's File Explorer by opening a folder, or it lets you access OneDrive via OneDrive.com on the web by hitting View Online, where you can access things like the recycling bin and also the shared area to see what files you've shared and what files people have shared with you. So understanding the desktop app is just noticing that it's a quick area that gives you information about the files and what their current status is, and a quick shortcut to view online, to where you can actually see your recycled files, the files you've deleted, or you want to see this area called the shared area, where you can actually view the files that you've been sharing and the files or folders people that have been sharing with you. So, now that I've stepped away from my PowerPoint for a second, I want to show you all something. I'm on my computer desktop here, and now that I'm actually signed into the OneDrive application, I can actually see this blue cloud logo. I have more than one OneDrive, that's why we can see multiple of them, but I actually have this blue cloud logo letting me know that my OneDrive is signed in. And I can actually access the desktop app directly from there by giving that a click. Now, if you do have a smaller screen, you may notice that this logo is actually inside of this arrow here, where the hidden icons are. But I have my OneDrive nicely available here. Now, it's very important to note that when you end up hitting Open Folder, what it's simply doing is it's giving you access to your OneDrive account directly from your computer. And if I scroll to my quick access area, I can see that I have my OneDrive account readily available, with all my files and folders easily accessible directly from my computer. I can also open up a browser page. We're going to do that in a little bit later, where I can view online and see my files online on a browser page there. And now I have access to my files online using OneDrive on the web. So this desktop app also has something called Help and Settings. If you were to actually give a click on that, you'll see that there's something called Settings built in. And once you actually open that settings window, there is a tool known as Backup. And when I click on the backup option here, it allows me to create a backup of my desktop folder, the documents, and the pictures folder directly to OneDrive. So whatever computer that you're signed into, you can actually quickly upload all of your desktop files, your documents, and pictures to OneDrive. Now, this is not building additional copies. This is known as syncing your OneDrive desktop app, so that as long as you upload a file to your desktop, it's also going to be available on OneDrive. Same with your documents and your pictures. Now, this is something that I already have turned on for myself. Manage folder backup. I have it for a different account, but it's letting me know that I have my desktop, documents, and pictures folder backed up. I recommend that for ease of use. That way we're not worried about having to constantly upload files to OneDrive. They're automatically being done for us as we use our computer and as we save things in our documents or our pictures or our desktop. And that way I can hop on another device and access my files. What I want to talk about next is how we can actually add and organize files to our OneDrive. Now I'm talking about the various methods we can actually add and organize files. We can actually do it directly from our File Explorer. We can do it from our desktop apps of Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. We can also do it on the web. And I just want to talk about the various ways I can add and organize files here. Now, the most traditional and common way that I've gotten used to when using OneDrive and working on files, whether it's an Excel spreadsheet, a PowerPoint, a Visio chart, a Word document, we're all familiar with the File tab. Now, when you click on the File tab here and you choose to save something, your OneDrive account will now be available there. And from there, I can actually choose to save a file directly to my OneDrive. I can also go ahead and browse my computer. I can hit Browse on the bottom. And this opens up my File Explorer to where I can browse my OneDrive and save it into a correct area or folder or location that it needs to be located in. I'm going to save this file. I've already saved it once, so I'm just going to overwrite the save. But that is actually one way of adding a file to OneDrive. There are some key details that I want you to know when a file is on a cloud service. Autosave will automatically be turned on to where you don't have to worry about saving the document anymore, or the Word or the PowerPoint, the Excel sheet, because the tool saves with every keystroke. And in fact, you can see at the very top, at the title, it says saved. I can also give a click here, and I can change the name of the file now while it is open, or move the location of the file while it is open. And in case I made a lot of changes and I want to go back to a previous version of the file and my undo button's not doing it for me, I also have access to version history now within the file, where I can go back to previous versions of the file and restore that version if I need to. So a lot of changes end up happening once a file gets actually saved to OneDrive. And this is the most direct way, just going straight to the desktop apps that you use and saving it to your OneDrive accounts, or browsing your PC and uploading it to your OneDrive account from your quick access area. Now, this is just one way of uploading a file to OneDrive. I can also, let me pull up my browser here, use the browser version of OneDrive, where if I really need to, I can actually simply drag and drop a file from my desktop into this browser page, essentially uploading the file. I can also, let me go ahead and close that out. I can also just use the upload function directly from this web page. And then from there, I can upload in files or a folder even directly to my OneDrive. Now, it is nice to know that this web page allows you to organize your files from alphabetical order based off the name, or you can also do it from the newer to older based off its last modified time. Now, by default, all files are private, all folders are private, but there is a column on the web displaying whether or not you are sharing that item or if it's a private item currently. So adding and organizing files seems rather simple whether you're using a different device and you're signed in on the web like I am here, or you're using the desktop apps like we normally do. Now, I very well can also just simply go to my File Explorer, and with my File Explorer, I can drag and drop files into my OneDrive as well. Very simple to use OneDrive, but there are multiple ways to use it, multiple routes you can do to add and organize your files. The most common route that I end up using is using my desktop apps, because that's usually where I'm at. But it is nice to know that within a quick click of a button, I can access my files on the web by going to the web version or signing into OneDrive.com, and the web interface will become available to me, which we'll talk about next in greater detail. If you do have a OneDrive account available and you're watching this video, I do recommend you to pause it now and try seeing if you can sign in, see if you can upload a file, and see if you can access it on your mobile device versus your desktop device versus the web browser, and just start interacting with it a little bit before moving on to the next video, to where we will discuss a little bit about the OneDrive web interface, the various areas and how we can access them, and how we can find certain details about our files from there. All right, so I'm over here at OneDrive.com and I'm signed into my OneDrive account. This is actually displaying me the same exact files that I have available on my computer's OneDrive account. I can actually click on this little gear icon and it shows me settings for the web page. I have the ability to update the theme. So if yours doesn't look exactly like mine, because I've changed it a bit, there's something called the dark mode that I'm using, that I've turned on. Sorry if you're in a dark room and that just made it really bright. Let me turn that back off. And I also have these different themes that I can use. Quite a few of them. I have the ability to change my password. Sometimes this is restricted by your administrator. But these are just basic settings for OneDrive. Let me go ahead and close out that little gear icon. And of course, there's my profile, letting me know if I need to sign out. Now, the cool thing about OneDrive is on the left-hand side where it says my name, we have several different areas. The very first one being an area where you can view your files and folders. That's what we're looking at here. Now, something interesting to know about this web page is that you can actually sit there and change the way it displays your files and folders by changing, well, the display. You can change it to a list, which makes it a little bit smaller, or compact list, which makes it even tucked more, removes the lines in between the files, or the tiles option, which shows you the nice large folders with the name below it. I'm going to go back over to my list here. I even have the ability to sort it based off type, name, who modified it, file size, in ascending order or descending order. Now keep in mind that when you're on the files page, you also have these options at top, where I have the ability to access new folders and create them to my OneDrive, or Word documents, Excel sheets, PowerPoint presentations, even OneNote notebooks or forms in Excel. Or if they're already in existence, I can do it directly from my computer and upload a file or a folder. Now I do have a sync option where I can sync my OneDrive to my computer, but I'm already signed into my account. And we also have Power Automate available where we can build workflows. Now this is just one section of our OneDrive, the My Files area. Something actually interesting happens to the top of the screen here when you select a file. You're going to see that the options change. The option to open the file might be presented to you, to share, to copy the link, to download it, to rename it, and to even access the version history. But these options only pop up when a file is actually selected or a folder. So, with this being said, now that we've gotten a little tour of the My Files area, I want to show you a very important aspect that I use almost every day. Some of your files are going to have the ability to be shared. You can share a file or a folder. And that's what this column here is displaying. Some are private, some are shared. So what I want to point out is that if you want to see who exactly has access to these files or these folders, you can select them. And you can click on this letter I here, the info pane or the details pane they call it. And what it's going to end up doing, let me zoom out just a little bit, is going to show you the details. Like who has access to the file, whether or not you want to manage access to the file. Do you want to stop giving access to the file to people? Do you want to remove the link? What are things you want to do? I'm going to leave the link though. I'm going to close out the details pane there. Very useful. This isn't available on the desktop app. The details. Now, since we are talking a little bit about sharing, you can see a list of all the files you've shared and the files and folders people have shared with you directly from your shared area on the web page. This is also something that isn't available inside the desktop app. It's simply going to show me an area where I can see the files and folders that are shared with me and the files and folders that are shared by me as well. There also is a recents area, letting you know what files you've recently touched and worked on. And last but not least, this is an area where we save files, so there are situations to where you might select a file and delete it. There is actually a OneDrive recycling bin that I want you to know about. And the cool thing about the recycling bin is most organizations have a retention policy for how long it lasts, but you can actually delete it out of the recycle bin at any time. There's something very important to note about a OneDrive recycling bin. At the very bottom of it, there is something called the second stage recycling bin, where it's simply a second area that the deleted file goes to. And you still can delete it from there, and then it's permanently gone, or you can restore it and it shows up back in the original location, the My Files area. Now, if you are looking at this bottom area called Quick Access, just know that these are my SharePoint sites and my Microsoft Teams that I can quickly access directly from my OneDrive account if you are working within an organization. If you do have a OneDrive account, try signing into office.com or going into onedrive.com and browsing your files from there, checking out these specific areas, seeing if you can upload a file or even a folder or create a new one, or organize your files and folders to be displayed the way you want it to be displayed, maybe with the newest stuff on top, or alphabetize the folders on top. Definitely get a little practice in and then come back And I believe up next, what we're going to be talking about is how we can share a file on OneDrive, whether that's just to let the person view it or whether that's to let the person actually co-author and work on the file with you simultaneously at the same time. I want to spend some time talking about how we can share a file using OneDrive. Now, the very most basic way, of course, is to notice how at the very top corner of a Word document, an Excel file, or a PowerPoint file, you have the option to hit share. This will only work if the file is on cloud services like OneDrive or SharePoint. They also have that same option from the File tab, where we can hit share. And we can share with people. Whether we go to the File tab, it pops up this options and permission settings that we can share. Or if we click here, we can hit share. It doesn't matter, it pops up the same exact window. Interesting enough, I can also go to my OneDrive account, and even without the file being open, I can actually access the share settings directly from outside the file. Now, that's usually what I like to do, my most typical way. So if I need to actually access and share a file without it being open, I can always right-click it and the option to share will be presented to me. In the same exact window will pop up where we can set the permissions of how we want to share it. Now there is something in common though that I'm showing you with these ways. They're all using your PC or the desktop. They're using some application. You also have that ability to share a file if you were on the web. Every file and every folder, once selected, will present the share options for you. Whether it's in line next to the file or folder or at the very top where we see share. In fact, you can also click on this ellipses and an option to be sharing it will be presented there as well. It doesn't matter which one you click, but it will pop up that same exact window where we can share the file. Now, every organization is different. The default settings for this window are different, but typically they're set to, by default, share with a can view link, meaning they're not allowed to edit, they're just allowed to view it. That's the default permission typically. Now, this can be changed. You can actually click on this, and depending on your organization, this one might be disabled, but you can choose a different setting. Like, hey, do you want to share it with only people in your organization? Do you want to share it with people that already have access, just generating a new link? Or do you want to choose specific people and type in their emails? You can also choose whether or not they allow editing, and some organizations allow you to set an expiration date and to set a password. Now, once you do apply these settings, it will go back to the main window, and now it's changed and set those settings for the link that you're about to create. Now from here, you actually have the ability to send someone's name or to a specific group that you have available. And if you want, you can change the settings from here as well. Can edit, can view, open up the main link settings. And then when you end up typing a little message inside of this window and hit send, it sends them an Outlook email. They can also copy the link. Maybe you don't want to send an email, you want to send it through a chat. You can copy the link for the file. I can also send an email using the Outlook button, but keep in mind that this link will work for anybody. So even if I don't type in someone's name here, I can copy the link and it'll work for anybody. So this is a can edit link that I've done for the file, and if I send that out, anyone with that link can edit the file. I can also create another link that's can view, and I can copy the link. And now only if you have this link, you can only view the file. So setting up these permissions for your files before you share them are important because it drastically changes how long the person has access to the file by setting an expiration date, whether or not they can edit it, and what person or who and how long will they have access to the link for? What person has access by choosing specific people. I do recommend, before we move forward and we talk about the difference of sharing a file versus a folder, spend some time and see if you can share something with someone. See if they can access it, see if they can make some changes to it. See if you can also share it with a can view setting as well, and see if they can make some changes to it to make sure it worked out correctly. When we come back, we're going to talk about the difference between files and folders, as well as using peoples versus groups. Yeah, I'm going to put those two together there, since they're very short topics. Now, when you do direct this message to someone, you have the ability to type in a name or a group that you have within the organization. So if you do have a group already built that you want to send it out to in a bundle, you can actually do that as well by typing it directly in here, or you can use single email addresses. Now keep in mind that when we do share something, whether it's to a people or to a group, you have the opportunity to share either a file or a folder. And if I go to my OneDrive here, and I choose to share a folder, everything inside of the folder ends up being shared. And if I add things to it in the future, those things will also be shared. So it's very important to be cautious about sharing folders because it shares all the contents and all future contents within that folder. Go ahead and practice sharing a folder if you haven't done yet, and come right back. What I'd like to talk about next is how we can manage sharing files. What if we want to stop sharing the file? Now, if you do need to change the permissions or you want to modify the permissions of a shared file or folder, you actually have to do that using OneDrive on the web, which I already have loaded up here. Now, if you end up finding the file or folder that you have shared, let me find a file that I have shared here, a shared file. I can actually go to the details pane, and it actually gives me a little area that says manage access. Or I could have clicked on that ellipses and the same exact option to manage access will be presented to me. It shows me that this file has been viewed 30 times. And if I want, I can also click on manage access here, and I can also just easily stop sharing it there with the click of a button. And now when I refresh this page here, it goes to private. Now keep in mind, if you have a lot of files and it's kind of hard to find the file, you can always go to your shared area. And you can find the shared by you section. And if that is not going to do it and you already know the name of the file, go ahead and just give a quick little search up top for the file name. In addition to Microsoft OneDrive being accessed on the web, being accessed on your desktop app, and being accessed on a mobile device, we also have Microsoft Teams. And if your organization has adopted Teams for communications, just know the files area has a cloud storage location where your OneDrive is actually fully equipped. From there, you can access new files or upload files or even open the OneDrive webpage directly from MS Teams. Congratulations, pat yourself on the back there. You have completed OneDrive for your everyday. In this session, we did start out with a very brief overview and gave us a little understanding of what OneDrive is. And then from there, we broke down, we started talking about what the desktop app can do and how there's a mobile app and a web page you can access to add and organize files. Once we ended up getting a little bit of an understanding of OneDrive, we learned how we can share files or folders and the various methods that we can do that and the various methods that we can access our OneDrive, whether it's in MS Teams or across our multiple devices. This was Fast Kareem from Learnit, and this course was called OneDrive for Your Everyday. I hope you did enjoy it. Definitely do start using OneDrive to upload your files to make sure that they're available across your devices, and have a great day wherever you are. Take care, and let me know in the comments what you thought about the course, and take care. Till next time, everybody. Bye-bye.